Hello, everybody. This is Sharonda, and this is my podcast, as well as my YouTube studio, Spiritual Sense. Today is Sunday, which is November the 28th, and I decided to go on here today to do a podcast in regards to a topic that I mentioned. I don't think I mentioned it in the past, but I do know it was one of the topics that I did want to speak on, and I decided to go ahead and do that today. And so let me proceed with pulling in some information. Okay, so basically, I'd like to state before I, go into that topic on today that this podcast, as well as this YouTube presentation, is optional. So if it's just so happen that it's something that is not of interest to you, I wish you well in your endeavors and finding what will be of your interest. Okay, and so let me proceed. If it just so happened that this, podcast or the things that I say is in regards to you or someone that you know that may be by chance or even by happenstance, okay? But this is a topic that I would like to touch on because I am not biblical. I'm not biblical. I'm not a religious person. I consider myself to be spiritual. And what that means is I do believe in a supreme being called God. I do believe that there are other gods, but ultimately there is a supreme being called God. I do believe that he allowed forces of other gods to happen, but ultimately he is the controlling factor of it all. Even, in terms of Satan or the devil or whatever the case may be, I do believe is all essentially God. Okay. So let me proceed. So today's topic I'm going to speak about is the Jezebel Spirit. The Jezebel Spirit. Reason I am speaking on this topic today, because it was a situation, that occurred in the media recently. And the first thing that came in my mind is not just one account. It's been several accounts of things that have occurred in the media, or on the news broadcast, not just from a few days ago, but from a few months ago, what have you. And God will instantly let you know what that is. And so it was a situation that occurred with a couple. And where both of the couples are no longer living. One of them killed herself as well as her husband, as the reports that I've read have read. And it became apparent to me right away what that was. And so that has prompted me to do this podcast today, because I got the inclination to speak on this topic before, and I'm going to explain to you what made me. You don't think this is crazy, but I just go with it. So I said that, I mentioned that God speaks to us all. God speaks to us in all types of vessels. We are all bound by spirit, whether it be favorably or unfavorably, but ultimately that's what it is. And I had an instance that occurred where somehow I was watching an old episode of Saved by the Bell. And as I'm watching this episode, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it came apparent to me, Jezebel Spirit, Jezebel Spirit, Jezebel Spirit. And as I'm sitting there watching the characters, God made me aware that I would use who I will to spread a message. And oftentimes people are shielded from it until years later it will become apparent to you or become apparent to them as to what that is. And who has the Jezebel spirit? Oftentimes, as I mentioned, the biggest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing the world he did not exist, is what that means. So I'll give you an account of what a Jezebel spirit is. Give me just a moment. Let me pull up this information. So we're going to begin with the traits of a Jezebel spirit, or characteristics, because this information that I have pulled up here is very extensive, and I'm not going to go into details as to what that is, but I will click on another website here that mentions about the 10 characteristics of a Jezebel spirit. Now, I also like to state that not by far am I a pastor. I cannot judge anybody, because, you know, we all have flaws. We all have things that we have done that we're not too proud of. You know, we have been, you know, we all have, even when you are somebody that would be considered prudent, I think we all are like that at some form and fashion, where we, you know, you try to do everything right and you try to be the best that you can be, and you find yourself in a situation where you're like, you know what? So we all will be put in those situations where mockery would come into place, and you feel as though somebody is trying to get you out of your character, so to speak. Okay. And with me having the, you know, healthcare background, you will find yourself in situations such as that at all the time, where you like, you know what? Somebody's trying to make me lose my religion, my license, my sanity, and a whole bunch of other things that comes with, you know, your everyday liberties and freedom. But I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so number one, it mentions Jezebel's ultimate goal is always control. So it says that they're motivated by their own agenda, which is relentlessly, it pursues its own agenda. Don't get this confused if you are talking in terms of, say for instance, if you're speaking on this in terms of, you know, a job or career, because there's nothing wrong with one having your own. There's nothing wrong with business ownership, business-minded people, entrepreneurship. My thing is the entrepreneur mindset. It's what I have, because I'm not and I admit to it, you know, way years ago, you know, some 20 years ago, I can honestly say that I had a Jezebel spirit, to where, you know, I felt the need to control the person that I was in a relationship with. And I felt the need to, you know, everything that, you know, I wanted to control that situation, because I had my own insecurities, I had my doubts, and I had my fears. So, you know, when I mentioned in, you know, previous podcasts about, you know, feeling as though that, you know, we all can be inhabited by these spirits, and that's how God will make you aware as to what it is in other people, because you have been presented with those spirits, and you learn those principalities, and you learn those things early on in life. And that was one of the things that I learned early on in life, about control and having self-control and remaining in control. So I do know what that Jezebel spirit is all about. Okay. Number two, the Jezebel spirit attacks, dominates, or manipulates, especially male authority. It mentions about Queen Jezebel, political authority of the kingdom. Her goal was to conquer and neutralize the prophet, because a discerning leader is its greatest enemy. Let me give a little bit more clarity on that. I'm gonna give a, and let me try to adjust this a little bit. Okay. Number one, you do not have to be a woman or female to possess the Jezebel spirit. That's number one. A Jezebel spirit can come in us all. And you know, for lack of a better word, because I do need to watch my vocabulary and the words that I speak, we can be inhabited by a Jezebel spirit. It has no respect of person. That's what I need to rephrase it as. That means that you can see it in children, boys and girls. You can see it in women. You can see it in men. It has no respect of person, has no respect of age groups, has no respect of race, has no respect of ethnicities. You could be within a race, but a sublet of that race. Okay, has no respect of person is the point. That means anybody can be inhabited by a Jezebel spirit, is what that means. You don't have to be a woman to be inhabited by a Jezebel spirit. Now, what my thinking and what God has presented to me, oftentimes that Jezebel spirit is in relation to the side, so to speak. So when I say the biggest trick the devil ever pulled is what? Convincing the world he did not exist. That means that it may appear that this person that sits before you has that Jezebel spirit, but what you will realize is the person that is within her or his vicinity is the one that truly has the Jezebel spirit. And oftentimes you will find why they pair the two together and how God will shield the one who is like that from seeing it. See, many of times people may appear as though they are all right. They just, everything they do is right. They don't mean no wrong. They just perfect. Oh my God, and they just as low down and evil is days long. Okay? Allowing somebody to control you and to manipulate you and use you does not mean that you're not of God. Let me state that, because oftentimes people have you feel or condition that you need to overwork and you need to be bottled with their problems in order to be a quote servant of God. That is not the truth. You could be of God and still put your foot down and say enough is enough. Plain and simple. Okay, so let me proceed. So it says Jezebel causes fear, flight, and discouragement. This spirit often causes a spiritual leader to flee from his appointed place by character assassination and ruin his reputation. Okay, so in terms of fear, oftentimes you will find that God will put the fear in you, put certain characteristics or allow certain things to inhabit you when you don't feel those feelings. And I give you an example as to what I'm talking about. So in those individuals out here who has ever heard of the word empathy, and let me pull this word up. And, when I begin to look up words and things of that nature, and, I give account of what those words is, I don't want people to feel as though I am trying to talk condescendingly to them, because we all, you have many words out there and many of them may mean similar, have similar meanings with a little variance to it. That may vary is what I'm getting at. So it says empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Once you have become spiritually in tune and you have gotten older in life, you will understand what empathy is versus sympathy. So empathy definition versus sympathy. So it says, the difference between empathy and sympathy is, it says when you share the feelings of another. Empathy is when you understand the feelings of another, but does not necessarily means that you share those feelings. It's the point. Empath. Five signs that you are an empath. So this is a definition, and I've I did a presentation previously some months back. It could have been sometime last year when I went over empath. Okay, which is essentially, it could be very well sympathetic when you're an empath, because not only are you understanding of what a person is going through, but you can feel what they're going through. So essentially it is sympathy. However, once you have matured spiritually, you can understand that these are not my feelings. These are the feelings of someone else, because I don't feel these feelings and I don't think these thoughts. These are not my thoughts. These are the thoughts of someone else. This is how someone else feels. This is not to say that a person is not responsible for his or her action. I'm not saying that. However, when it becomes spiritual, God will show you. He will show it to you. You will be able to see and discern what that is. Like you could actually see it. He would tag them to where you can see it. Many people are not able to see it in that manner because God has not what? He has not what? They have not matured spiritually to understand it. Empaths are highly intuitive people. They're able to pick up, hurt, pain of someone. Okay? This is outside of regular common sense or common knowledge. They're naturally helpful. Empath people, they're helpful. That just because you're not helpful all the time does not mean that you're not empath. This is something that you have to realize now, because people, this is where a lot of burnout comes from, because oftentimes the power of suggestion will have you feeling like you have to, measure up. And if you ain't A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then, so you're highly observant. Like you could just go everywhere you go, you take note of most things. You're a highly observant person. Number 4, you're naturally sensitive. Empaths. I'm not a crier. And for the most part, I'm not a big emotional person. I'm not. However, I can take on emotions of people who are like that. But I'm not a big crier at all. Okay, so let's see. I think that was all of them. Okay, it says empathetic and compassionate. You're empathetic and compassionate. You're gonna realize that, people are gonna put you in situations that will overwhelm you. It said crowds are often overwhelming. And you get overloaded. Negativity is overwhelming. You just get so a lot of stuff just weighs on you easily. Okay, low pain tolerance. Now I have had a high pain tolerance, but it's intense now. It's a more intense pain tolerance now. But this is what it says here: easy to spot lies. Like you can see through deception easily. More sensitive to medications. That is true. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, so that's what that is. Sympathy versus empathy. Again, sympathy, having common feelings. The act or capacity of entering into or sharing the feelings or interests of another. So that's what that is, where you can share those feelings, you can go through those feelings. Whereas empathy is you can understand them, but you have to be level-headed and objectively in the situation. So in other words, you're able to discern if this is how I'm feeling, or is this how this person feels? Okay. And oftentimes, if you have a lot going on, you can lose sight of that, and you can begin to lose who you are as a person. Is this me, or is this the person that's with me? And sometimes it takes stepping out of a situation to gain insight as to what it is that you're experiencing. Okay. So we're going to proceed to number 4. Yeah, so in other words, getting back to number 3, Jezebel causes fear, flight, and discouragement. You want to be realistic as possible. You want to be as realistic as possible. Oftentimes, if there's fear that you sense, particularly if you have matured spiritually, what is that fear coming from? Because a lot of times you'll begin to see that people will use scare tactics to come dump this stuff on you. Simple as that. It's always about them, and then when it's time to check out, you just a couple of words in the newspaper, and then they've moved on. That's not how life works, baby. You can play the radio with those who want to follow suit to that. I'm not the one. No, I'm not. Okay, number 4. People under Jezebel influence are natural leaders, although often covertly. So it says the Jezebel spirit attempts to seek out people of influence to win their ear, gain credibility, and win endorsement for their toxic cause. I feel like recruit. Like you may find a group of them that want to band together and control the masses. So I do believe that in terms of a Jezebel spirit. Now, hear me out, because I feel like when I mentioned in the past that I am able to discern a Jezebel spirit, because I took on that impression years ago, some 20 years ago, in a relationship that I was in. However, I am not a manipulative person. Like, I don't try to band together to come against people, so to speak. And I learned that a long time ago that I could put it this way. I guess what you would say is it's common nature for people to want to protect their territory. Now granted, I don't own a house, I'm renting a house, but still this is considered a home. It may not be my house structurally, but it's my home is what that is. So that's natural to want to protect your territory and your space. Okay, so I'm able to understand a Jezebel spirit, and I'm able to pick up on a Jezebel spirit because those are the things that I am not. But getting back to number 4, recruiting. You always find them always want to band together. They try to force relationships, always want to network, and they get together and just control each other. You will see them. God will make it apparent to you. It's kind of like, watching, the Wizard of Oz, where you usually see the little, I don't know what you call the little imps or whatever you call them in the Wizard of Oz. They get together and it's like, gotta, so to speak. You would know a Jezebel spirit. I don't have to go into someone's house to know when I'm dealing with a Jezebel spirit. Plain and simple. Number 5, people under Jezebel's influence are often insecure and wounded with pronounced egocentric needs. They are often trying to fill a love deficit, meaning a void. People under Jezebel control always have deep unhealed wounds from sources such as rejection, resistance, fear, insecurity, self-preservation, and bitterness, which in turn spreads its defilement to many. Yes, of course. Hear me out. I have the podcast. I also have the webinar, which I'm doing the presentation on now for the Spiritual Sense YouTube channel. Anybody that has watched even one of my webinars or even listened to one of my episodes, if you don't hear anything else, you're going to hear my disclaimer. This podcast, as well as this Spreaker studio, is optional. Okay, optional. And I could be a sarcastic person. I can at times. So we're going to look up optional, available to be chosen but not obligatory. That means you're not obligated to it. That's what that means. That means that no one is forcing you to do anything. No one is forcing you to listen to this. I do know, because I'm not, I discovered YouTube years ago, but I haven't become more consistent with YouTube until, the last 2 or 3 years now. Since I forefronted my, podcast, as well as, my webinars and everything. And so, but I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm trying to give you an example as to what a Jezebel spirit is. You will know a Jezebel spirit. Plain and simple. If it just so happened to want to get out a certain situation, want to present a message, I'm not forcing you to listen to nothing. You can listen to it or you can choose not to. It's plain and simple. Number 6, the Jezebel spirit functions sublimely and deceptively. People controlled by Jezebel use flattery to win you over to their domination. Jezebel spirits are masters of manipulation by guilt and undermining or discrediting another's influence. Those under Jezebel control use flirtation and are extremely jealous of anyone they perceive to be a threat. Now, that is so true. And I'm going to explain something to you because, as I mentioned, one word that's going to get a hit dog to holler is jealousy. Oftentimes, when a person is a jealous person and you tell them that they're so, they would get mad. They would get mad. I'm a person that have envied. My have who feels envy. Don't feel jealousy. I feel envy. What I don't like is when a person try to manipulate a situation to incite or infuriate to cause jealousy. And you would know when a person does that. And working in healthcare, you will find many a times everything you say you don't like, you're going to be the very goddamn thing that you're going to have to deal with. I had this situation that happened recently. When I say that in that health field, in that industry, they use psychology on you like no other to break you. They care nothing about you at all. Plain and simple. The only thing you're good for is what you can do. You are a machine. And when you're ready to check out, they got a bed sitting there waiting right for you. You just go on ahead and just lay on in the bed, and then you just get the nurse to come in here and start giving you meds. Okay? So, you would know the difference between somebody that is truly jealous versus somebody that has had some people to come against them by like a systematically done something for the hell of it because of something that you did that has nothing to do with them. And when you begin to judge people, you will end up eating those words that you speak out because you don't know what the situation is. It's none of your concern nor your business. And so, as you know, being in nursing school, you know, you hear, oh, they eat the young, meaning, you know, the older generation try to throw the younger generation under the bus. And then you might have the battle from the younger generations trying to throw the older generations under the bus. They gossip. That's all they do. And you will find a lot of that where they gossip and, you know, oh my gosh, nothing you do is right. How is she going to help for this? You're going to find a lot of that. And oftentimes when they set you up and they sit back and take notes, and those very things that you spoke on, your answer is going to be, and excuse my French because it is Sunday, you will be put in those same scenarios. Plain and simple. You're going to find out why that field, as well as many other fields, have people coming in and out that door. In and out that door. Plain and simple. I mentioned that in my podcast that I did when I mentioned about the industries of deception. When God, you know, revealed to me in a vision, you know, coming out of my sleep, and you know, I was laying here on the bed, and there he go, and he urged me, you need to speak about this dream because I put revelation in you as to what that is of a dream that you had 25 years ago. And that's why I decided to go ahead, and in turn, I had got the full revelation as to what that dream was talking about. A lot of the industries, there's just people just in and out that door. Simple as that. You do what you can do. It's never ending. Don't let Satan determine your destination. Don't let Satan put you in a typecast and try to put all this pressure and stress and worry on you because that's what he feels. Because he got bills to pay. And he got debt that he done ran up that he need to get paid. Do you think Satan is concerned about you when he got all this stuff on him? He is not. And you let Satan have his way. Is what you can do. That's what they are typecast as, not you. And this is what a Jezebel spirit has to deal with, because you are bound by money and what's of this time and space. So guess what? You can have it all. Is what that is. And those who are looking to get off into the healthcare field are going to find that they are put in those situations on a day-to-day basis. You cannot judge a book by its cover. You better speak to somebody who knows. And that's what a quote prophet is. And anybody can be a prophet or a prophetess. Anybody could be a false prophet or a prophetess. In a book can be what? A book of false doctrine. Plain and simple. So let's proceed. Ultimately, people under Jezebel influence are proud, independent, and rebellious. Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and will attempt to control others through any means other than the Holy Spirit. It has 1 Sam 15:23 is what it has indicated here. Okay, from the revelation that I received, because I do believe, I don't know everything it is to know about the Bible. I believe the test is within the text. I'm not going to sit up here and read all these verses, because a lot of this stuff is a manipulation and a deception to cause you to do some crazy stuff. Kind of like reading stuff in subliminal messages. That's simply what the Bible is. It's subliminal messages. Certain things that you begin to read in your spirit, which you're not in agreement with and you're not accepting of, causes you to what? Turn on yourself. It is a tool used to control you and have you to turn on yourself. Many people don't even realize that. If you begin to pay attention to one or two things out of there, it tells on itself. Kind of like, and I know plenty of people have had this to happen. You go into a situation and they say, okay, we have a test. Write your name at the top right corner, first and last name. Put the date at the bottom left corner. Read question 1. You're done. And then people proceed to do the next following questions, which can go from 1 to 20. And you sitting up there like this. That Bible works the same way. You don't know who wrote this. You don't know who put these things together. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. That is the test. To see who's paying attention. To see who's paying attention and to see who is geared. See, if you are spiritually led, God gonna lead you straight to it. He's gonna lead you straight to it. Plain and simple. You got to stay up on your game plan. You got to stay up on your spirituality and your spirit works. The same way you get up and you groom yourself, comb your hair, brush your teeth, these things that you do, the spiritual warfare works the same way. The spiritual path works the same way. Number 8, it takes an Ahab to let its Jezebel spirit operate unchallenged. It says those under Jezebel's influence do not operate without someone under an Ahab spirit's influence enabling them to function. I don't know who Ahab is, and I'm not going to read and look up who Ahab is. But I'm presuming that Ahab was the one that had the Jezebel spirit, because this is how I see things. Oftentimes, you will find that Satan is very deceptive. The very one that you think is not. And this is why they want to bring in confusion, chaos, manipulation, want to recruit, and want to use psychology and all this other stuff. They're very manipulative. The only thing they're concerned about is things. That's all they're concerned about. So we have number 9. A Jezebel spirit is always in alignment with a religious spirit. Both Jezebel in the Old Testament and Revelation in the New Testament operated under the cover of religion. Its religious deeds are done for all to see. True and spiritual gifts attract people to Jesus, not the people who exercise the gifts. You can take what you want to take from that situation. I'm not going to even pay that any attention, because whoever wrote this person was possibly under a Jezebel spirit himself or herself. Number 10, the families of people under Jezebel's influence are often out of order. Those under Jezebel's influence control their partners and cause their children to take sides, grow up insecure, disrespect their fathers, feel manipulated, and become distrustful towards true authority. I'm going to explain something to you. When you have been presented before somebody that is put up and pushed up and brushed up to look more than it really is, that is critical thinking skills, is what that is. Everything that's in a position of authority has not been placed there by God. It was placed there by God by way of, is what I'm getting at. Like God allowed it to happen, is what that means. And oftentimes you will find that something is, as an example, that is not in all situations or cases, because there are times where God will use things as a setup for a person to go on their journey. This is not necessarily for this person in a given situation. This person belongs in a different aspect of life. This person has gained insight to where they belong in a different aspects of life, okay? Or in a different, industry. Like this person is something that's pulling me towards another industry, is what that is. So it mentions about the Jezebel spirit and how you can break the stronghold of the Jezebel spirit. It says, pray in Jesus' name. As I mentioned, I have my reservations about Jesus. I don't consider myself antichrist. I do believe there was a Jesus that once walked these lands. I do. I am not in agreement with Jesus in regards to suffering. I'm not. In that aspect of it, I am not. But you will know a Jezebel spirit, and I thought that I will speak on this topic because it's something that came across some months ago, as I mentioned, as I was watching an old program of the show Saved by the Bell. You will be very surprised as to, out of the group, who will be considered the Jezebel spirit. And I'll leave it at that. So it says Jezebel was the daughter of Ethobaal or of Tyre, and the wife of Ahab, king of Israel, according to the book of Kings of the Hebrew Bible. According to the biblical narrative, Jezebel, along with her husband, instituted the worship of Baal and Asherah on a national scale. In addition, she violently purge the prophets of Yahweh from Israel, damaging the reputation of the unready dynasty. For these offenses, the unready dynasty was annihilated, with Jezebel herself suffering the gruesome death of defenestration. It says later in the book of Revelation, Jezebel is symbolically associated with false prophets, is what it mentions. I'm going to click on defenestration. It says the act of throwing someone or something out of a window is what it says. The term was coined around the time of incident of Prague Council in the year of 1618, which became the spark that started the 30 Years' War. It says this was done in good Bohemian style, referring to the defenestration which had occurred in Prague City. Okay. You don't know who writing this stuff. I'm gonna tell you who's writing it. Spirits are writing these things. And once you have become enlightened, you will realize that we are in a spiritual battle. And oftentimes people do things under the influence of a spirit. These spirits are still around. And they are able to watch and discern what you do. Plain and simple. Yes, simple as that. Okay. So I am going to close out this presentation. I put it this way. I honestly believe that these people existed. I do. I also believe that it's a message within the message. I also believe that because they said she was stole out a window, that means that they wasn't able to see that what she was doing was coming from her husband. Now, I don't know much about her husband. And like I said, I'm not biblical, but I will click on his name. It says he was the 7th king of Israel, the son of and successor of King Omri, the husband of Jezebel of Sidon. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Hebrew Bible presents Ahab as a wicked king, particularly for condoning Jezebel's influence on religious policy and his principal role behind Naboth's arbitrary execution. So this is, essentially it mentions that he was a quote wicked king. So she was pretty much telling on what he was doing. Because from my understanding, wicked is not something that's good. Simple as that, and reading this information. So it just goes on to mention about him and his encounter with different prophets. It says, and I'm going to go here with the 5th encounter with Micaiah, which is similar to my daughter's name. It says the prophet who, when asked for advice to recapturing Ramoth Gilead, sarcastically assures Ahab that he will be successful. Micaiah ultimately tells him the truth of God's plan to kill Ahab in battle due to his reliance on the false prophets who were empowered by a deceiving spirit. And so in turn, that prophet was right. Plain and simple. I do remember reading that because my daughter, whose name is similar to that, she says she wants her name to be Micaiah, and ultimately is essentially the same thing. But I do remember reading some information when I did look at when I decided to name her what I named her, and I looked up that name, and it did mention about this prophet Micaiah, who predicted the death of this so-called king, and it came into past. So I don't know. You put it this way: those spirits still are around. Just in case no one has told you so. Those spirits that they speak of, the information that is written here, those spirits are still around. I kid you not. They haven't went nowhere. You may not see them in a physical sense. God will allow you to see them in the physical sense in people. Like they will inhabit us, and you begin to see those spirits that he has spoke of in people. They are disembodied is the point. They can inhabit us, and you will begin to know, okay, these are the lichens and the spirits of Jezebel. These are the lichens and the spirits. You will see it in animals. You will see it. That time and space does manifest in our time and space. I kid you not. I am not on drugs. I'm not crazy. I haven't ate yet, but I have, snacked or whatever. So it's not a blood sugar thing. It's not nothing medically to where, oh my gosh, no. Those spirits still are around. And when you begin to read things that come through, oftentimes those spirits present to you. So what you would begin to understand is, and this, I'm going to play devil's advocate right now because God just laid this on my heart. I'm going to play devil's advocate for the Black women that are out there today. I actually have on a shirt that says Black and Beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. And what I mean by that is, it may seem as though I'm not on your team and I don't want to be bothered with you and I don't like you and all this other stuff. But I understand. I don't wish to be nothing besides what I am. Okay? But God just laid this on my heart to tell you and to say, those spirits are still around. There is an attack on the hearts of Black women right now. There is an attack on the hearts of Black women right now. We have to realize that we are in a spiritual battle. And confusion comes in when you begin to stray away and get captivated in this space. That means in this realm and the glitz and the glow. It's nothing wrong with wanting things. I'd be one to admit, it's nothing wrong with that. But when you let it consume you, you will be branded as such. What do I mean when I say branded? That's all it will be. You will have a OCD. God let me know what OCD was. When a person is not used to having anything, it will be apparent in their countenance or in their not necessarily countenance. It would be apparent in their behavior when they come from struggle and strife. When a person is always consumed with things, you will see it. He will show it to you. This is what this person is bound by. This is a superficial person. Plain and simple. And when they jump up and just jump into these industries thinking, gosh, I'm gonna get this. You're gonna realize, you're gonna understand and realize why a lot of those things manifest and take why those things happen the way they do. They have people, I call them troglodytes, that is sent back. They have been what? Shielded from certain things. This is what they're bound by. This is what they do. Like me, I'll be one to admit I have a OCD with job applications and putting in job applications and OCD with working several jobs and stuff, and that's my OCD as such. And oftentimes I have I've been one to admit my communication is not up to par because I don't like nobody to try to convince me contrary to what I have already formulated and made up my mind as to what something is, as to what God has revealed to me. Because I know, and people are very manipulative. And one thing I try to not do is allow people to manipulate me and try to mess things up when I got something already planned in the background. Because that's what they would do. The only thing they want to do is get you in there and mark you and get you on out the door. It's drama. That's all it is. Plain and simple. And so, but yes, when you begin to give me just a moment because I was checking some emails and stuff. When you begin to allow certain things to be your focus, God will reveal the heart. God is going to reveal the heart. So when you begin to lie and try to deceive people, he's going to reveal the heart. A lot of these people can't change if they want to change, is the point. And oftentimes they will run into the church or the church hall to fool and deceive people. And it takes a person that is truly spiritually led to get it. What this is that this person is dealing with. You will be surprised of how God, to restore you, he will allow one thing to cover up something else. Oftentimes you'll find that many of these people, I'm just going to put it out there, are suffering a Jezebel spirit as well as a homosexual spirit. This is normal. You will know the difference between if somebody is actively doing it or is it in the thoughts. Plain and simple. And they can sit here and try to put on this front. They will come against you when you tell your business and when you tell on God and putting it all out there. It will be apparent as to what that is. He will reveal the heart. He will reveal the heart. And this is why oftentimes you find that they will come and they will try to kill you. It's the point. Because you will find that many times people that are in those fields have been made to feel shame and guilt for things that they did. Okay? And when them demons start speaking in their head and start making them feel all different types of way, think all type of different thoughts, and they have all this stuff coming against them, that's the only way they can do to release. The same things that happens now happened then. Today is no differently. Today is no different. And I'm saying differently, more different is what I'm getting at. People that are in the religious center oftentimes suffer from mental as well as physical concerns, is what I'm getting at. And God will make it apparent to you as to what the issue is. And when they see that you're able to discern what that is, typically they don't like you giving them eye contact. They don't like you questioning them. They don't like you doing a lot of things. They will have your ass killed. I'm just going to put it out there. Because this is how Satan operates. He sits right there in a lot of these religious halls. A lot of these people suffer from mental concerns. And you will know a Jezebel spirit. You will know them. They're very, a lot of them are very controlling. They have nerve problems because they have judged people and have spoke curses on people. They are afraid to go have services done. So this is what I'm perpetuating, that some mental concerns needs to be incorporated, or mental, as well as physical clinics needs to be incorporated in a lot of churches, because a lot of people hadn't grasped that understanding. They haven't grasped that. They don't understand that. Not only do you need a clinic or a, some type of small practice within a lot of these religious halls, but you also need some mental services within these churches as well. Okay, now I'm speaking on one thing and it visits me. It comes in and say, okay, speak on this. And that's why oftentimes it seems as though I'm being pulled in different direction and I'm not, can't stay focused. That is why. Okay, so I'm going to close out this presentation, this webinar, speaking on the Jezebel Spirit. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you're more than welcome to place them in the comment section. Please no inappropriate questions, comments, or suggestions. Until then, you have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.